All right.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Joe Schlitzer. I am one of our Siemens and Festo product specialists with E&M. I've been with E&M for over 9 years now. And prior to my role as a Siemens product specialist, I was one of our technical support engineers here at E&M. This morning, we are going to be doing our S7-300 to 1500 migration workshop. It goes over the steps needed to convert a Step 7 Classic project, so Step 7, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7 to TI Portal. And in that migration process, we are going to migrate a 300 to a 1500. Also here today in our workshop, we have our moderators. We have Kyle Escamilla, and we also have our proctor, Dan Stewart. We also have one of our Northern California account managers, Kimber Bentley. She's joining us today. I just want to say this is an open dialogue in this workshop. So right now you guys have your mics muted. I appreciate that. But if you have any questions, feel free to unmute your mics. We can pause the workshop, ask any questions. There's also a chat feature in this Zoom meeting. So if you have any questions, you could also type them into the chat. So that being said, I'm going to move on here. I hope everybody got the links for the SkyTap environment and also a PDF of this presentation. If you have not received either of those, please let us know right now and Kyle can get those sent to you. Does everybody have everything they need for this workshop? I'm going to take the silence as a yes. Perfect. Great. All right.
So
So,
it looks like Bond
Sorry,
has
I may need some help.
okay, what's going on?
Was that Bond just now who spoke?
Yeah, he wrote something in the chat.
Yeah,
saying
yeah, I don't have the Sky tab.
All right, I'll send it to you directly in the Zoom chat here.
And Bond, it's a link to open up a website, and in your web browser, it's a virtual environment to a PC. So when you have your SkyTap VM open, at the top of the SkyTap environment, there's a little toolbar here, and there's a couple buttons that are really helpful. So when we go through the process, we're going to actually do a migration from an S7-300 to a 1500. We're going to do that in the SkyTap environment. And just to maximize the real estate that you're working with within your browser, there's a fit to window button to maximize the SkyTap environment within your web browser. And then there's also a change resolution button if you want to change the resolution of the SkyTap environment. So as I said before, today's agenda is our migration from an S7-300 to 1500. This isn't really a training event. This is more informational and just to give you like the big picture idea of how to do it. We're actually going to walk through a migration, but I just want to reiterate that, this is just to show you how it's done. If you need some more training with TI Portal, E&M does have two excellent trainers that do TI Portal training. One is based in California and one is based up in the Pacific Northwest. We do offer all sorts of training classes, but primarily we have our TI Portal 1 and 2 classes. These are fantastic classes. You work through programming PLCs, HMIs, you do some work with drives. So if you need some additional help, learning TI Portal, I highly suggest getting in touch with your E&M account manager and getting signed up for one of these classes. So I want to give you some background on the S7-300. So the S7-300 has been around since the mid-90s. It is the predecessor to the S7-1500. The S7-300, it has been the workhorse of the Siemens PLC portfolio for some years now. It's going on 30 years. So right now it's available, but it has been earmarked for phase out. And so it is actually going to be sunsetted October of 2025. So after October of 2025, it'll still be available, but just for spare parts. And that'll go on. I think it was the phase out period started in 2023. And so 10 years from 2023 is 2033. So in 2033, that's when it's going to be end of life. So this kind of shows the successors of the classic products. Right now, we're talking about the S7-300. That also includes the S7-300 IO, which is called ET200M. So if you're working with an S7-400 or S7-400 IO, you're going to be migrating to an S7-1500 and its IO, which is the ET200MP. And it's also phasing out the ET200S. That is our distributed IO and distributed CPU line. That is being migrated to the ET200SP. The S7-1500s and the ET200SP, they've been around for quite a while now. So they aren't new products. They are proven. And they're going to be around just as long as the S7-300s were. So think 35 to 40 years. So they're going to be around long after I retire. So you don't have to worry about Siemens replacing them anytime soon. So here I'm showing some resources for migration. Siemens has all these links up on their CEOS site. CEOS is Siemens Industry Online Support. It's a fantastic resource for technical documentation, application examples, FAQs, manuals, any sorts of downloads like software updates. The CEOS site is free. You just need to register for it. But if you click on any one of these links, it'll take you to some helpful information that you should have in your arsenal when doing a migration from an S7-300 to an 1500. I also wanted to point out this link on the CEOS website. It has some more information about the phase out period. It gives the different steps of the process of phase out. So if you want information on dates, just make note of this link. It should be in the PDF that was sent to you. So here's the agenda for today. It's going to go through a few labs. And the migration process is actually a two-step migration process. So first, we're going to migrate a Step 7 Classic project. Like I said, it's Step 7 5.x. That could be any version of the older Step 7 to TI Portal version 18. And then after we do that, we will migrate a S7-300 that is already in TI Portal to an S7-1500, and then we're going to test it out. So we're going to do a few different variants of that migration. And then I'm also going to show you how to convert your legacy hardware to modern hardware using the TIA selection tool. But before we get into that, I'm just going to go over some slides here and just kind of give you a brief overview of some of the hardware that we're going to be working with. So what we're talking about today all centers around automation in the factory. That could be a product line or machine. So in the past, we had lots of different software packages we had to manage for our automation tasks. So talking about Siemens, the PLC programming software was Step 7 5.x. The latest version right now is 5.7 or Step 7 Professional 2021. We now refer to that as Step 7 Classic. And then separate from that, we had the HMI programming software, which was WinCC. And then you might have some separate network designing tools or diagnostic software. There is separate drive software called Starter. And then there's additional software packages on top of that. So it was quite cumbersome to manage all those different software packages for your PLC and HMI and other device programming. So if you're not familiar with TI Portal, TI Portal is an all-in-one software package. It was introduced around 2010. And you can see on the screen that there's many different components that make up TI Portal. You still have Step 7, you still have WinCC. Starter is now called Start Drive. For motion control, we have some motion. For motor management and protection, we have CMO code. These are all different components that are in TI Portal. So it's one software package that can do many different things. It's great. So in your Windows environment, you don't have all these open applications that you have to deal with. It's just one program, TI Portal, and then within TI Portal, there's different components that you use depending on which products you're working with. The TI Portal environment has tons of optional packages to expand its functionality. It's continuing to grow and it's more functional every year. And I want to reiterate that TI Portal is not something that you buy. This is a major confusion point. What you need to know here is what you're looking to do within TI Portal, and then every functionality of TI Portal requires its own license. So for example, you're going to have a Step 7 license, and that might be a different flavor of license depending on which PLC you're working with. And then you're going to have WinCC licenses for your HMI programming. You might have some motion licenses, or maybe some Start Drive licenses, or some CMA code licenses. So in order to activate that functionality within TI Portal, you have to have the correct licenses installed. So you'll never, ever receive a TI Portal license. You'll always have Step 7, WinCC, or like a safety license, depending on what you're working with. You can see here from this grid here on the slide. So the inner part of it, these are like the core products within TI Portal. And then you can add in all these different add-ons. And a lot of these add-ons, some require licenses, some actually don't. So as you can see here, the functionality of TI Portal is pretty vast. These next two slides show what engineering and runtime options are available for different components of TI Portal. You can see here under Step 7, there's lots of engineering options. There's multi-user engineering. There's a cloud connector. There's a test suite, PLC Sim Advanced. There's safety, and so on and so forth. And this gives you some runtime options. What's not listed here is a lot of the WinCC runtime options, but there's also runtime options for PLCs. If you're using like OPC UA communications, there's a robot library, things of that nature. So this gives the lineup of the current offering of our S7 controllers. So at the entry level, we have our S7 1200s. Those are very basic controllers. There's actually going to be a new generation that's going to be released, hopefully the end of this year, with a newer version of TI Portal version 20. It's called the S7 1200 G2. And then moving up from there, we have our advanced controllers, and I'll show it on another slide coming up here. But there's different flavors of the S7 1500. There's the standard S7 1500, but then there's the ET200 SP CPUs, which are based on the architecture of the S7 1500s, but their form factor is much more compact. There's also software controllers that you can load onto IPCs. I just want to make sure you understand that going forward, you know, the S7 1200 and the 1500 are the two flagship PLC platforms available from Siemens today. But the S7 300 is still available, but it's now considered a legacy product, and that also applies to the S7 400. So the S7 1200 is our entry-level PLC. It's an ideal choice when it comes to flexibility and efficiently performing automation tasks in lower to medium performance levels. It does feature a comprehensive range of technological functions. It has integrated communications, and the main selling point is its compact space-saving size. They are available in standard and fail-safe safety versions. As you can see here, the S7 1200, depending on which CPU module you're using, you could have up to 8 I/O modules to the right of the CPU and 3 communication modules to the left. It also supports remote I/O like ET200 SP. And then to the right of that, we have our ET200 SP CPU. This is what we call our distributed controller. The distributed controllers combine some compactness and flexibility. They are especially designed for medium performance range machines, for distributed intelligence, or like series machines with limited space. The distributed controllers are a perfect solution for those medium-sized applications. And like the S7 1200s and 1500s, they do come in a standard version and they come in a fail-safe version. The ET200 SP CPUs use the same modules as the ET200 SP remote I/O, and we'll go over that in a minute. I want to point out here that the ET200 SP CPUs, their functionality, they're kind of on par with the standard S7 1511 or 1513 CPUs in the standard S7 1500 range. So moving on up, we have our S7 1500. That's considered our advanced controller. The scope ranges from standard and fail-safe CPUs for small to medium-sized requirements. It does offer a compact size with integrated inputs and outputs, and supplemented with technological functions, all the way up to our most demanding high-performance applications such as motion control and high availability applications. The S7 1518 may be one of the fastest PLCs on the market today. And then to the upper right corner, we have our S7 1500 software controller. This makes use of all the same functionality of the S7 1500 controller, but it's just loaded onto a Somatic industrial PC. The benefit here is you could use it with some combination of higher level programming languages such as C++. The software controller works completely independent of the operating system of the IPC. So that means it continues to run even if you restart the Windows side of the IPC, or if the Windows side crashes, the PLC side is not going to crash. It's completely independent. So one of the biggest things we like to hit on when using TI Portal is efficient engineering. It's the perfect tool to make use of your time and money as efficient as possible. And then also up here, you might note that we really like to key in on security. So back in TI Portal version 17, which was released a few years ago, Siemens has made security a prime focus in its automation engineering. A lot of the existing security functions that were turned off by default are now turned on by default, and they've added a lot more functionality when it comes to safety. The programming for the S7-1200 to 1500 is very scalable. For the most part, you could bring any programming blocks that you have done in the 1200 to the 1500. There's some small limitations there, but you know, if you ever had like a small project and you started off with a 1200, getting it over to a 1500 is pretty simple.
Hey, Joe, I just want to make sure we didn't miss it. Did we get to Doug's question there?
So I see somatic, but no mention of OP center. Doug, do you want to explain your question here?
Sure. I'm Doug Otero from Northrop Grumman, and we're currently upgrading from Somatic IT to Ops Center Execution Discrete. And so I see a lot of references to Somatic, but and Cinemeric as well, and just nothing about Ops Center. So I was just wondering if these integrate into Ops Center as well, or how does that work?
That's a great question, and unfortunately, I'm not familiar with Ops Center, so I don't know how to
Okay.
full answer on that. But what I can do is I will make a note of that, and I can shoot you an email and give you information on that.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let me just do that right now. Perfect. All right, so now we're going to talk about the ET200 SP. This is the successor to the ET200S. It's very compact, so if you have reduced space requirements in your enclosure or on your machine, this might be the way to go. Like I said, it's based off the S7-1500, so very fast cycle time, so it's a very capable lineup. It's a very easy to use PLC. The ET200 SP, all the base units, they're all push-in connectors, so you don't have to mess around with a screwdriver getting your wires plugged into the terminals. There is different versions of it. So the ET200 SP is IP20, but there's different flavors of the ET200. So if you need something that's going to be mounted outside the cabinet, there's flavors as well. And then like all of our other PLCs, there's very many different levels of diagnostics that you could get back to your CPU for troubleshooting purposes. So this goes over the ET200 portfolio. So we were just talking about the ET200 SP, but there's also remote I/O based on the standard 1500 modules. Those are called the Somatic ET200 MP. Those are IP20 rated, so they go inside the cabinet. And then there's different flavors for outside the cabinet. There's the Somatic ET200AL. Basically, you have an interface module, and that connects back to your CPU over Profinet. And then you have all these I/O modules that get connected with Profinet. There's also the Somatic ET200 Pro, and then there's the Somatic ET200 EcoPN. The EcoPN is nice. You don't have an interface module. It's built into the I/O module, so you just run power and an Ethernet cable, and then your I/O cabling back to your sensors all in one module. This goes over the design of the ET200SP. The ET200SP is a multifunctional and finely scalable distributed I/O system with a large range of modules. It's about 50% narrower than other distributed I/O systems. As I mentioned before, the ET200SP is approved for IP20 and is designed to be installed inside the control cabinet. So if you're working with remote I/O, which is shown here, your first module is going to be the interface module. So this interfaces with the CPU. You bring in your power, but then here there's actually a port or different types of ports for Profinet. It can be Profibus as well. Or if you need fiber, there's connectors for fiber as well. And then to the right of it, you have your I/O modules. The I/O modules are actually the top part that you see here. So it's a two-piece system. You can see here on the right where it says base unit. The base unit is where you land your wiring, and then the I/O module clicks into the base unit. What's nice here is you can save some time wiring. The 24-volt power can actually be passed from base unit to base unit. So you don't have to run 24-volt to each one of these modules. You run 24-volt to the first module. That has to be a light-colored module. And then if you put in the darker-colored base units next to that, it connects its 24-volt to the module to its left. And then finally, at the end, you have your server module. This is kind of like a termination module. This actually gets supplied with the interface module. You just have to click this into the very last module in the I/O rack. And if you're familiar with the ET200S, which was the classic product, every time you wanted to create a potential group to pass 24 volts, it actually required an electronic module for that. And so now with the ET200SP, we don't use that anymore. It's actually built into the base unit. So it's just light colored and dark colored base units. You start a potential group with a light colored, and then if you're using dark colored next to that light colored base unit, the 24-volt power gets passed to it. There's many different flavors of I/O modules. You can see here there's basic, standard, and high feature. The differences really circle around diagnostics. So with your basic, you might get some basic diagnostic and basic functionality. And then as you move up, like high feature, you might have diagnostics, or you, not might, but you will have diagnostics per channel. You'll have different operating modes or different functionalities. And then there's also these high-speed modules like high-speed counters, oversampling, and things of that sort. This is just to give you a brief overview of what's available for the different I/O modules. For digital inputs, there's different voltages. Channel density, we could get up to 16 channels per module. Digital outputs, there's solid state, there's also relay modules, and channel density is the same, up to 16 channels. Analog inputs, we have current, voltage. If you're doing anything with temperature, we have RTD, thermocouple modules. Analog outputs, current and voltage. And there's special technology modules for counting, positioning, camming. There is, if you're working with like strain gauges, there's modules for that. There's also modules for if you're doing any sort of like load cells, there's technology modules for those as well. And many different forms of communication modules depending on what you're working with. IO Link, there's RS-232, 45, Profibus, all sorts of communication modules. And this just gives a brief overview of how it looks. Again, we have our interface module here. Anything that shows up as yellow, that indicates it's a fail-safe module. As I said before, it's all tool-free. So to push in your wire or your wires in the terminal, they're just push in. You do need to use a screwdriver to press this button to release the wire, but at least you're not dealing with screws. It's a very hardy construction, very energy efficient as well. So I'm going to talk briefly about HMIs. We're not doing anything with HMIs today, but I just wanted to talk over about HMIs briefly, because usually in your machine or factory environment, you do have an HMI. As you know, HMIs are what we use to see and control your system. It's a programmable and customizable interface that gets you away from standard indicators or push button or analog gauges. So this is the offering of our HMI panels. We have our very basic panels, or even we have these key panels that have no screen. It's just an array of soft touch buttons. We also have now our new unified panels, and the unified panels come in the same flavors as you see here. There's basic unified panels and basic comfort panels. We do have mobile panels, and then we have our more advanced PC-based panels. They could be run on Windows or Unix. All right, so this might be a good place to start. Does anybody have any questions thus far before we get into the labs? Before we do the labs, I'm actually going to walk through the labs first. I'm going to show you what is going to be done in the lab, and then I will actually go step by step with you through the lab. But before we get into it, does anybody have any questions?
Joe, you just spoke about the HMI being able to run on a Windows version.
Yeah.
That's the configuration that we're moving toward. And my question is, our PC will be Windows 11 compatible. Is there any obstacle to using Siemens software on a Windows 11 device?
No. So all the latest versions of our PC-based HMI runtimes they're compatible with Windows 11. Even TI Portal, Siemens went back. Gosh, I think they went back to even like version 15 or 16 and made sure that the engineering software is compatible with Windows 11. So it's pretty up to date with the latest versions of the Windows operating system.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. So this first step, it says open up Step 7 Classic. I already went ahead and I opened up Step 7 Somatic Manager and TI Portal on all your SkyTap environments. I just minimized them, so you'll see them minimized in your SkyTap environment. I did that just to make the labs a little bit more efficient. Step 7 and TI Portal, they take a few moments to open up and get going. So just to make everybody's life a little bit easier, I already opened them up for you. So there's no need to open up those programs. So Somatic Manager will already be open for you. You just need to click on it in your taskbar to maximize it. And then once it's open, we are going to go to the File menu, and we're just going to click Open. And in the Open Project window, we are going to click, or we're going to scroll down. We're going to find this first project, Workshop EX1, and we're going to click OK. And it's going to open up the project, and this is the project view within Somatic Manager. And we are going to click on Workshop EX1, maximize it, and then we're going to double click on hardware. And that is going to open up the hardware configurator within Somatic Manager. It's actually a separate program, like I was mentioning before. And we're just opening this just to show you what is in this Step 7 Classic project. And then we're going to move on to TI Portal. And again, that will be already open for you guys in your SkyTap environment. You just need to maximize it. And this shows the different components of TI Portal. So when you first open up TI Portal, it brings you to this portal view. It's kind of like a basic view of TI Portal. It shows your recently used projects, and you could create new projects. You can migrate a project from here. You could do other things. It's a simplified version of it. But then moving on from there, in the lower left corner, you have this button that says project view, and then you can move to the project view. This is the more advanced view, and this is the view that we're going to be working with. So in the portal view, this kind of just shows the different components here. We have our recently used projects. We have different tasks. But we're going to click on the project view to switch over to the project view. And once in the project view, it is going to look like this. On the left side, we have the project tree. In the center area, we have the working area. On the right side, we have our task cards. And then on the left side, there's different panes in the project tree. If you have an item selected in your project tree, the details will be shown in the detail window. The lower part of the center area is called the inspector window. And then we have that button in the bottom left corner to switch the different views within TI Portal. So once in the project view, we're going to open up, we're going to go to the project menu, and we're going to select Migrate Project. And in the Migrate Project window, where it says Source Path, there's a little Browse button with the 3 dots. We're going to click on that. And we're going to navigate to this directory. It should be already listed there, but as you can see here, the screenshot, it's going to be, there should be a folder right on the C drive called work sh_ex1. We're going to double click on that guy, and then we're going to select workshop.s7p. And then we're going to click on the open button. It's going to bring us back to this migrate project window. And here's a very important step, and I don't want you to miss this. And I'll reiterate that when we get back to this step when I'm going through this with you guys. There is this checkbox that says include hardware configuration. That is not checked by default. We want to check that. And then we have to enter in a project name. We're going to give it a path. And then we just want to click migrate. So it'll perform the migration steps, and then we're going to get some warnings. We're going to click OK. And then in the inspector window, we're going to have some information, and it's going to say migration completed with warnings. And to get to those warnings, we're going to click on that little green arrow. And it's going to show the migration log. We're going to get a warning, and there's a little arrow or question mark. And if we click on that, it's going to give us some information about the warning. It brings up the information system, and it says, it tells us some information about this warning. And this warning, just for this example, it's nothing that we need to be concerned about. It was a rarely used function within the S7-300 that is no longer available in the 1500. It's just giving us some information about it. And then we are going to right click on the CPU 315-2 in the project tree, and we are going to do a hardware and software compile. And after it does its compilation, we are going to migrate that to a 1500. So again, we're going to right click on the CPU name in the project tree, and then we're going to select migrate to S7-1500. And we're going to get this migration to S7-1500 window. So it shows us the current device in our project, and then we have to select a new device. And so for this example, we are going to select the latest version of the 1511-1 PN and then click OK. And then after it does its migration, this is a very important security note. It says it did its best to migrate it to an S7-1500, but you are the owner of this PLC. This is your project. It is up to you to thoroughly test its functionality and make sure it is working exactly as it was designed to. So we can't guarantee that. So it's up to you just to make sure that it functioned the same as it did when it was a 300, that it does now that it's a 1500. So after the security window, we're going to click OK. And then there's some differences when it comes to communications, particularly serial communications. It's giving you some options here. It says, hey, we want to use some new point-to-point instructions for the integrated communication modules of the S7-1500, or we could use the legacy communication blocks. We're just going to keep it as default and say use the new P2P communication instructions, and then we're going to click OK. And then it's going to say migration has completed successfully. Click OK. And then in your project tree, you're going to see a new PLC there. It doesn't delete the old one. It adds in the new 1511-1 PN. We are going to open up the device configuration window. And we're going to see the 1500. It's just a CPU. There's no I/O modules here. And then we're going to go to the protection and security property, and we're going to click on Start the Security Wizard. And this is a wizard that was introduced in version 17, and it just walks you through some security options. For this lab today, we're just going to disable everything. So we're going to disable the confidential PLC data. We are going to disable secure PG and HMI communication. Click or uncheck that blocks and click next. And then for PLC access protection, we're going to give it full access. Click on next. Here's an overview of our security options and just click on finish. And then we are going to compile this new 1500. Same thing, right click on its name and then compile hardware and software. And then now our project's been compiled. We're going to get some warnings about some passwords not being set. That's fine. We're just doing this for our lab. And then after we've compiled it, we are going to test out our program using PLC Sim. So we highlight the name of the PLC in the project tree, and then up in the toolbar, there's a little PC-looking icon. That is the simulation icon. We're going to click on that. It's giving a warning saying, hey, we need to enable simulation for program blocks. So if you click OK, it's going to enable simulation. And then click OK again to start the simulator. And it's going to open up PLC Sim. Once it opens up, we want to minimize it. Back in TI Portal, it's trying to download to the simulator, but we need to make sure that it is a trustworthy device. So we just need to click on the connect button. And then we're going to get this download window. We need to search. It's going to find the 1511 that's in the PLC simulator. We're going to click on load. This is the load preview window. There's some options here. So where it says reset, we might have a warning. We just have to change the action to delete all. And then we want to click on load. We might get the security window again. If we do, click on connect. And then under action, we want to change that to start module and then click finish. So then back in TI Portal, we are going to expand open the program blocks folder in the project tree, and we're going to open up OB1. And you might have to make some adjustments here to see everything. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on the monitor button. It's these eyeglasses with the play button. What that'll do is that'll automatically connect us. We'll go online with the PLC and we'll start monitoring the logic. We're going to right click on tag 1. We're going to go to modify and we're going to modify it to on or to 1. And then we're going to watch the timer. When the timer counts down, its power is passed to the output and it's working. So you might notice here, if you're familiar with TI Portal in the 1500, this is actually this is a legacy timer function. And this is for migration purposes. So we could keep it as it is, or if you wanted to, you could change this to the newer version of the timers. All right. So that is lab 1. I am going to open up my SkyTap and I'm going to work through this with you guys. So I'm going to stop the share of the presentation. And let's see here. I just need to get my SkyTap over here. I'm going to go back over here. Right. I'm going to start. I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so everybody should be able to see my SkyTap environment. This is how yours was set up. You just should be able to see the Windows background, and in your taskbar, you can see here we have Portal that's open and Semantic Manager that's open. So we just want to maximize Semantic Manager. This brings up Semantic Manager, and we're going to go to the File menu, and we're going to click on Open. And in the Open Project window, we want to select Workshop EX1, and then click OK. And that'll open up the project within Semantic Manager. This is a very basic project just for demonstration purposes. Over here in the project tree, we're going to expand it open. There's a little plus icon here. Click on that. It expands it open. Then we want to click on Semantic 300. And once we have that selected, we want to double click on hardware. And we're not doing anything here within Semantic Manager. We're just kind of showing you the existing hardware configuration that's in this project. So here we could see that we have a 315-2 PNDP. It gives us some information here regarding part numbers. There's no I/O modules. It's just a CPU. So now what you can do here is you can actually close the hardware configurator, just the X out of that. We're not doing anything else with the Semantic Manager, so you can minimize it or close it. I'm going to close it. And then we're going to click on TI Portal V18 in the taskbar. And again, here is TI Portal. It's already open for you. And by default, it opens up to the project view. There's actually a way that you could change the settings so it doesn't open up to this view. But just for our demonstration purposes, this is how it is out of the box. So we get the portal view. It shows existing projects. There's some functionality here. If we click on these tabs over here, we might get some different functionality. We don't have a project open right now, so we can't do anything with that. So we're going to actually switch over to the project view. And here's the different areas of TI Portal. So on the left side here, we have our project tree. When we open up a project, the project will be here, and any devices that are in the project or we add to the project will be listed in the project tree. In the main area here, we just see the background now, but if you open up any blocks or any like network editors, they'll be shown in the working area. Below that here, we have our inspector window. So you can see properties of blocks or IO modules. When you do a compile, it shows up on the info tab. And there's also some diagnostic stuff. If you're online, if you're checking out some communications between devices, you might see some diagnostic information here. On the right side, we have our task cards. So there's tasks. If you have libraries, there's project libraries or global libraries. And then if you installed any add-ons into TI Portal, they would be listed here. We're not messing with that today. So what we're going to do now that we have TI Portal open, we're going to click on the project menu and we're going to select Migrate Project. And we're going to get the Migrate Project window. So the first thing we need to do is select the classic, the Step 7 classic project that we are going to migrate into TI Portal. So where it says source path, there is a little browse button with the 3 dots. Click on that. And we have to select the project you want to migrate. So that's going to be located on your local disk C. You might need to scroll down, and it's going to be this guy. It's Workshop. They cut off the name, but it's work sh_ex1. Double click that. Scroll down to the bottom. One thing I'll note here is, like Step 7 Classic, TI Portal, when you create a project, the project is actually a folder, and within that folder, there's many subfolders and there's subfiles. So you need all those folders and files in that project folder in order to work with the project. So a lot of people, when they say, hey, send me your project, they'll just send this single file. That won't work. You have to send the entire project folder. This is the same for Step 7 Classic and TI Portal. But here, we're just going to select the name of the project, this file, workshop.s7p. Click on Open. And here's the step that I want to make sure that you guys do not forget to do. Please click on this button that says Include Hardware Configuration. Project name, just leave it as it is. Target path for this, leave it as it is. If you guys were doing this on your own, you could change the project name, you could change the path, you could put your name in as the author, and then a comment. So just like a generalized programming tip, this has nothing to do with migration, but anytime you see a place that says comment, I highly recommend putting in comments. It's just good practice to always jot down what you're doing. If somebody has to take over the project for you and to continue your work, comments are the best things to use to provide information on what's in the project and what you're doing in this particular place in the project. So we're not going to do any of that. We're going to leave it all default, and we're going to click on Migrate. So right now it's creating a project. It's building up that project folder. Now it's going through the migration process. And this process depends on your existing project. So if you have a very simple project in Step 7 Classic, this will be pretty quick. If you have a very large process or project, I'm sorry, this will take some time. So it's all dependent on your previous project that you're trying to migrate over to TI Portal. So everybody, if you're following along and you're at the same pace I am at, once it has finished, you will get this little warning or this little pop-up window. It says migration completed with warnings. Click OK. And nothing's going to happen here. You're just going to get, you're going to see your project here in the project tree. You're going to see your 315-2 PNDP. But what's important here is in your inspector window, you must have the info tab selected. You're going to see this message, migration completed with warnings. And we want to see what those warnings are. So we are going to click on this green arrow. And we're going to get our migration log. The summary has been minimized, so we want to expand that open. There's a little black caret here. We click on that black caret, it'll expand that open, and it gives us the summary, and it gives us that warning. CBA reservations were removed during migration. Well, what the heck is CBA reservations? I don't know. So let's click on this little question mark. And it's going to give us some information. So like I said earlier, when I was walking through these steps with you, CBA reservations is a rarely used function. And this isn't something that the 1500 supports. They do it a different way. So during the migration process, it just removed it. I also want to point out here, this message was in the information system. This is the built-in help in TI Portal. So if you ever need any help programming, this is an excellent resource for getting information. And there's also a section here that you might have noticed, migrating projects and programs. So there's a lot of information here. It goes over a lot of the steps that we're currently doing in this workshop. So this information system, you can minimize it or close it. I'm going to close it. So what we want to do here in the project tree, we have our 315-2 PNDP. I want to select it, right click on it. We're going to get this contextual menu, and we're going to go down to compile, and we're going to select hardware and software. So this is fantastic. All blocks are up to date, compiling finished, no errors, no warning. Like I said, I can't guarantee this is going to happen for your project, but at least you will know if you have any errors and warnings. You could go through the same process, click on the warning, click on the error. There'll be a little question mark, and you can find some more information about those errors, and then you can determine how to fix those. But since we don't have any warnings or errors, oh, I think we have a question in the chat. Ramon, you're having some issues. Dan, can you help out Ramon?
Yeah, I'll pull him up right now.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. So we're going to right click again on the 315-2 PNDP like we did before, and we are going to select migrate to S7-1500. So here's our migrate window. So in the migrate window, our current device is our 315-2 PNDP, and we have to select the device we want to migrate to. So under controllers, Siematic S7-1500, expand that guy open, expand open CPUs, and we're going to go with the 1511-1 PN, expand that open. And the way TI Portal works here with the device tree, the older devices are always higher up in the device list, and the latest one is at the bottom. We're going to select that bottom one. And then we're going to click OK at the bottom. So we get this security note. It's saying, hey, please, please, please do your diligence and test the functionality of this program thoroughly before putting this CPU into active duty. Test it, test it, test it. And I'm going to reiterate that 100 times over and over. It's really your responsibility after this migration process to test out your project, test out your hardware, test out your software, make sure everything functions as it should. That is entirely up to you. Click OK to this window. And we're getting that message about different types of serial communications. For this example, we're just going to keep it as it has selected here and use the new point-to-point instructions. Click OK. And give it a moment. And it says PLC migration completely successful. Click OK. And now in your project tree, it should be shown as mine. So you should have the 315-2 PN, and we should have our new 1511-1 PN. So we're gonna expand open PLC_1, and we're gonna double click on device configuration. And it actually already has it open for us, which is fantastic. We want to make sure that the CPU is selected, and it is selected here. You can see it has the blue rectangle around it. If you select any of the slots here, it's always denoted by a blue rectangle. So CPU is selected here. In the inspector window, click on the Properties tab. Make sure the Generals tab is selected, and we're going to go down to Protection and Security Properties. Click on that, make sure it's highlighted, and then we're going to click on this Start Security Wizard. You should be able to see everything as I have it here, but if you need to adjust these panes, you could grab one of the black bars, make it bigger, smaller, move stuff around so you can see more. So we're going to click on the Start Security Wizard. And like I said, for this demonstration, we're just turning off all these security settings just to make our life easy for this demonstration. We're going to turn off confidential data. We're going to turn off HMI and PG security. We're going to give full access to the PLC. And this is just an overview of what we've selected here in the security wizard. And we're going to click on Finish. All right, so now that we've configured the security for our PLC, we just want to make sure it compiles okay. So select PLC_1 in your project tree, make sure it's selected, right click on it, and we're going to go to Compile Hardware and Software. And we got some warnings here. Warnings will not stop us from downloading to the CPU. And here, these warnings are just about some security settings. Oh, 1 second. My mouse is being weird. Okay. So now in the project tree, make sure PLC 1 is selected. And then we're going to go up to the toolbar and we're going to click on this little PC. It's the Start Simulation button. If you hover over an icon, you get the little tooltip that tells you what it does. So you want to make sure we click on the Start Simulation button. And we get this warning saying that we need to enable simulation for our blocks. So that'll do it automatically for us if we click OK, click OK. And you might get this warning message, starting simulation will disable other online interfaces. Click OK to that. PLC Sim should be opening up. You should see the splash screen. Give it a moment. So PLC Sim V18 has opened up, but what you can't see here is TI Portal is waiting for you to do some things behind this window. So right now, we just want to minimize PLC Sim V18. And then on this window, we want to make sure that the interface that is selected is PNIE, that's Profinet/Industrial Ethernet. The interface is PLC Sim.
Joe.
Yeah.
On Ramon's, it's just basically spinning ball. It's not doing anything.
It's not responding.
We couldn't actually do the. We couldn't actually search for anything. It just circle. You want to take a look at it. Yeah.
Hey, Kyle, can we give him access to a different VM?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. All right.
I think Ramon, we're probably just going to have to start through, look at your workshop, and we'll just kind of start through the workshop again, just the lab one. So let's just, I'll close this. And Kyle, which number are you gonna give him send him a link?
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a new link. It's gonna be number 5.
Okay.
This is for Ramon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, hopefully, continuing on, when my PLC Sim opened, it didn't properly start up the simulator. So when I go to extended download to device, I have PNIE selected, PLC Sim selected, but there's no network connection. And I believe that's because I do not have Sim running. So is anybody else showing the same as mine on this screen? You get this error message, the selected interface has no network connection. I'm going to cancel that. I think if I hit simulation again, there it goes. So if you ran into the same issue as mine, you don't want to close out the simulator. You just want to cancel out of the download window and then hit that simulation button again. So now I'm going to minimize that. Powered on. Okay, still thinking. Give it a moment here. Huh. Try this again. Mine's not playing nice. See here, I have this spinning wheel and it's not letting me. Okay, there it goes. It timed out. So we're going to try this again. PLC name. I'm going to start PLC sim. Click OK. It could be maybe I wasn't patient enough. Hey Dan, can you just go through everybody's sky taps and just make sure that PLC sim is working okay for them?
Yeah, I'm still, Ramon is going through basically trying to catch up.
Got it.
So, let me go ahead and try to get this guy tab going for the other ones. Hang on.
There we go. Now mine's looking correct. So everybody's PLC sim V18 should show something like this. In the instances, you should have an instance of a simulated S7-1500. And if we minimize it, you should have this extended download to device window. Everything up top here should be grayed out, and it's just waiting for you to do a search. If you're having issues like I was having, let us know in the chat, and we could get you up and running. So I'm going to start a search. It finds the simulated 1500, and I'm going to click on load. You're saying, hey, PLC1 in the PLC simulator. I don't know what that is. Do we trust it? Yes. We want to click on connect. All right, Ryan is having some sim issues. Before we move on, Ryan, I'm going to connect to your VM and see what's going on here. Give me a moment. Okay, so you're kind of having the same issues I was having. So we're gonna click no to that. We're gonna cancel out of this guy. So I want to make sure this guy is totally compiled. You might have done this already. Cool. You might have to click that resize button. On my screen, it was cut off, so I needed to press that. We're going to click the simulate button, click OK. Yeah, so we're gonna add an instance. Power that on. All right, minimize this. Cool. All right, I'm just gonna get you caught up. So start search. Click on load. Click connect. And everything is good here. Click on load. And all right, Ryan, you're caught up. I'm gonna go back to mine. Oh, Nappy, are you having some issues? Let me get back over to him. Just make sure. All right, so let's see. You don't have the simulator open, and I'm going to compile this guy. Oh, you didn't go through the security. Security wizard. Let's disable that guy. Disable that guy. Full access. Perfect. Finish. I'm going to do a compile again, just make sure we have no errors. Great. And we're going to go to start simulation. Click OK to that. OK to that.
Joe,
Yeah.
he basically rebuilt everything with a new VM, and we're basically to the PLC sim, and it's not allowing us to do a search. So I
Yeah.
guess we'll open up PLC sim again and just make sure that we're running.
Yeah, make sure there's an instance running, and then it should allow for a search.
It doesn't have any.
If you need me to hop in there to get it going.
I think you need to real
Okay.
quick. He's on number 5.
Okay, thank you. Let me just get this gentleman going. Cool, that's running. There we go, start search. Found it, load. Do we trust it? Start it. And we're finish. All right, I'm gonna leave that there.
We're in the workspace. I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna move over to
Number
Ramon,
5.
number 5. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna minimize that. Yeah, that's fine. PLC sim. And we want to go to library. We want to add in a 1500. We just have to power it on. Well, that's powered on. We should be able to minimize this. And let's see. Yep, now we're ready. So start search. It found the simulated PLC. It's going to show up here in our accessible devices. Perfect. Load. Yes, we trust it.
And that 1500 select 1500 step isn't actually on the manual.
Yeah, it shouldn't be there. So when you press the simulation button, it should start the simulator, and it should add in a 1500 instance. into the simulator. And for whatever reason, sometimes it does that and sometimes it doesn't. So we'll have to look into that, why it's not happening.
Okay, so Ramon, you should be able to just follow on at this point.
Yeah, if everybody's good, I'm gonna move back to mine. Let's see here. I might be behind everybody now. So, okay, moving on. So I am gonna load, click on load. And we wanna put the CPU in a start. We're gonna click on finish. All right, so if everybody's at the same pace I am at, and you've completed the download to the PLC simulator, we should have a screen like this where we are in the device view of TI Portal. It shows us our 1500 rack, and that's it. If you look down into the info pane here, you should have some messages about the loading. Everything is successful. So now in the project tree, we're going to expand open our program blocks, and we're going to double click on OB1. This should show OB1. For this demonstration, we only have one network here. Basically, we're just enabling a timer, and when the timer finishes after 5 seconds, this tag goes true. So we are gonna go up to the toolbar. You should see these glasses with the little green arrow. That is to monitor the logic. And what it's gonna do first is it needs to get online. So it's gonna go online with the PLC, and then it's gonna monitor OB1. So now I'm online in TI Portal. When you are online with a PLC, the title bar of your block that you're working on will be orange. And then also in your project tree, you could see these little green balls. These are comparison balls between your offline and online project. And it also shows the status. So everything is green across the board. We are online, and in our network, we could see that this rung of logic, there's power going to our first contact, but it's open right now. So we need to close that in order to run power to our timer. And then once the time has elapsed on our timer, this memory bit will go true. So in order to do that, we can right click on tag_1 in the contextual menu, select modify, modify to 1. And now we can see our timer counting down. And you can see power going through the timer into our memory bit. So if we go over here to the right side, I just want you to click on the instructions tab. And these are all the programming instructions. So under basic instructions, I'm actually going to minimize all these other categories. We have our timer operations. And here there's a subfolder called legacy. So these are legacy timer functions that you would have found in the S7-300. And because we migrated this from a 300 to a 1500, it kept the usage of that timer. So it's using the old version of the timer block. So Siemens does that just as a convenience for migrating 300s to 1500s. So that is done. We are done for this lab. It might be a good time to take a little break. We could keep going if everybody wishes, but if you need to catch up on some emails or take a bathroom break, now might be a good time to do it. Does 10 minutes sound okay to everybody? I'm going to take the silence as a yes. And if everybody's all good with that, why don't we come back here at 10:35? Perfect. Hey, Kyle, are you there?
Yes. What's up?
Yeah, so making sure we have those updates to TI Portal. I mean, I
Mhm.
think this is like a good
Is that what's causing some of this stuff?
well, it might. I don't know for sure, but PLC sim isn't behaving as it should.
Mhm.
So the updates might resolve that issue. I don't know, but we were
No,
talking.
I think this is a good example. I think I agree with you. We need to get these up to date.
Yeah. Because I found I kind of remember when I did this last time, it was like 50-50, 50% of the students it was working as intended. And I think I ran into the same issue.
Mhm.
I could, modify the presentation to add in some extra steps, or we could just
But it would make more sense to just update the.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. No, I see what you mean.
Yeah, just when Ramon went through his, I mean, even going back through, we still have the same issue. So I think updating is a great idea.
Looks like Kevin's having some issues, so I'm gonna go over to his SkyTap. Kevin Woods. There you are. Okay, let's see. No devices available. Cancel that guy. Yeah, that looks good. Let's see. Bingo. All right, Kevin, I'll let you take over from here. All right, it is 10:35. I'm hoping everybody is back. I'll give it another minute before we continue. But in the meantime, does anybody have any questions regarding that last lab before we go on to lab number 2, or just any questions in general? All right.
And Joe, I've got a question about how these two um, versions of technology exist and how you migrate a large plant. Uh, do you upgrade to the new control scheme, which works with the older controllers, and then you migrate individual tools to the new technology, which it also works with? Am I getting that right?
Yeah. So large plants can be tricky, right? You don't. It depends, on what your what your production looks like. Do you have a lot of downtime, or if you don't have a lot of downtime? I always, recommend doing it piece by piece. And then if you have a test bench system available to you, always test your migration offline, not connected to your factory floor before, connecting it to the factory floor, just to make sure, once you get it connected, it's fully functional. There's really no need if you're going from a 300 to 1500 to first migrate the 300 to TI Portal and then test the 300 with the TI Portal code loaded into it. There's no benefit there. So you really want to do your migration from the 300 to Portal, and then from Portal to the 1500, test that out. And then once that has been qualified, then you want to implement that into your factory floor. Now, if you're able to segment it and you have, multiple tools that all have their own controllers, I would do it, tool by tool. That way it kind of makes it easier for like a troubleshooting point of view, instead of having to deal with, multiple tools that have been migrated and you might have multiple issues.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it happening. We have multiple tools that do the same function, and we can schedule downtime or schedule a project to modify that tool when production allows.
Sure.
And yeah, that's the migration process that we're looking for, because getting downtime for the entire factory and getting it all converted and turned back up and tested would be something that we just couldn't afford to do.
Yeah, and doing all that, if you're a time crunch, especially if you're trying to meet, if you have a limited amount of time for downtime, that sounds super stressful. It sounds like you actually have a benefit though, if all your tools are identical to one another. If you're able to do the migration with one of the tools and work out all the kinks and bugs that you might come across, that's going to save you when you do the other tooling. So I would concentrate on one first and just make sure your migration goes according to plan and you have it fully tested. And that way the other tools will be far easier for you to work with when you do the migration.
Thanks. That sounds right.
Yeah, I try to limit stress as much as possible, and I always know I've done a lot of these migrations for customers. I don't have to commission them, but I have done enough migrations where I know that there's a lot of work to make the migrated project as functional as it was with the S7-300. Sometimes there's some logic that might need to be changed slightly, and that makes customers very nervous. Like, oh, we're changing logic. Is that going to change the functionality? Well, we're not really changing the functionality. We're just using a different set of instructions that do the exact same thing, but they're different in the 1500. But you have to fully vet those out. And so if you can minimize that headache of those changes and just do it on one tool, and then you know what you're going to get into with the other tools. For me personally, that would be the way I would do it. So instead of trying to do like multiple machines or tools at the same time, I'd be pulling my hair out.
Yeah, that sounds like the way we would approach it. We'd start with a family of tools that do the exact same function, find one with an opportunity for the amount of downtime we need, convert it, fully test it, and then inform the production floor that we're looking for opportunities with the other tools in that family, and can show them the results on the first tool, and limit their stress.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, yeah, your game plan definitely makes sense, and I would do the same. Okay, so everybody should be back now, and we are going to continue to lab number 2. So in lab number 2, we're going to do something similar, but this time our S7-300 has some remote I/O attached to it. In the classic project, it is ET200S, and we are going to migrate that to ET200SP. So we are going to convert the project to TI Portal, and then we're going to convert the 300 to a 1500, and then we're going to convert the ET200S to SP. So the first thing we're going to do is, and again, I'm just going to walk through these steps, and then I'll do it with you. We're going to close exercise 1. We're not using it again, so you can save it if you wish. You don't have to save it, but we're just going to close it since it's already open. Then in TI Portal, we're going to go to the project menu. We're going to select migrate, and we're going to navigate to workshop 2. And we're going to select the project within that folder and click open. Again, need to make sure that we check that box for include hardware configuration, and we're going to select migrate. And it is going to go through its migration process, and we're going to get our S7-315-2PN into Portal. And what you're going to notice is that it has the 15-2PN, and there is a couple ET200SP racks. There's one that's connected via Profibus, and there's one connected Profinet. So we're going to right click on the CPU, and we're going to compile hardware and software. And then we're going to migrate to a 1500. And because we have both Profinet and Profibus networks, we need to select a 1500 that has both Profinet and Profibus interfaces. So we're going to select the 1516-3 PNDP. We're going to select the latest version of that one and click OK. And it is going to migrate it to a 1516-3 PNDP. And again, the same thing as we did in the first lab, we're going to turn off all the security features. And once we have done that, we're going to go to devices and network. And the I/O is still connected to the 315-2. And we're going to delete those networks from the 300. And you're going to note here that those racks are unassigned. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign them to the 1500 in the device view, or I'm sorry, the network view. On those nodes, there's a little link that says not assigned. We're going to click on those and we're going to select the 1500 and then we're going to compile. And that is it. I think I mentioned that we're converting those to ET200 SP. That's actually going to happen in lab 3. So this is just the first step. So let me get back here and we're going to walk through these together. All right, so here's our project from before, and I'm just going to close it. So if you go to project, you can select close. Do you want to save it? I am not going to save it, so I'm going to click no. So here, that out of the way, I'm going to go up to our project menu, and I'm going to select open. Oh, I'm sorry. Not open, migrate. And here's our migrate project window. And we're going to browse. And we want to go back to local disk C. And workshop exercise 2. Double click that. Scroll down to the bottom. Select the project and click open. Make sure you check the box for include hardware configuration. Check that box. Keep these all as default and click on migrate. You should see this message that says migration completed successfully. Click OK. So now you should see a similar view as I'm seeing. We want to expand open our 315-2 PNDP in our project tree. And actually, no, we don't need to expand that open. We actually want to double click on devices and network. So that's just the item right above the name of the PLC. Double click that. And this just gives us our network overview. We can see right here, we have our 315-2 PNDP on its Profinet interface, which is this green box that is connected to this remote IO rack here. It's connected to an IM151 3-PN or 3PN. If you want, you can double click on it. You can see what we have here. It's just a ET200S rack. Oops, I'm clicking the wrong scroll bar. With a couple, with the DI module on it. And then we could go back to the network view. We could take a look at the Profibus rack. It has a Profibus interface module and then some IO modules here. So what I want you to do now, go to your project tree, make sure the CPU is selected, right click, go to compile, hardware and software, only changes. You can see here in the inspector window that it compiled. There was no errors, no warnings. We're going to right click on that name again, and we're going to select migrate to 1500. So same migration to 1500 window as we saw before in lab 1. Under controllers, expand open S7-1500, expand open CPU. And this time we're going to select CPU 1516-3 PNDP. Expand that guy open. And we're going to select the last part number at the bottom of the list. And we're going to click OK. And we get this message again that says test your migration. Click OK to that. We get in this window again saying, do you want to use the new or the old peer-to-peer? or point-to-point instructions, just keep it as new, click OK. And the migration completed successfully. Click OK. So we should be in the device view of that 1516, and we should have the CPU selected, blue box around it. In the inspector window, I want you to click on properties. And we have protection and security. Make sure that is selected in the general tab. And we want to click on the button, Start Security Wizard. And we're just going to turn all these guys off like we did before. Get to the last screen, the overview screen, review our settings, and click Finish. Now, in the device view window, we could click up here to network view, or we could go over to the project tree and double click devices and network. I'm just going to click on network view. And we see our converted or migrated 1516-3, and we see the existing 300, and it's networked to these remote IO racks. So we're going to delete these connections. And the easiest way to do it is right here where it says Ethernet, right click on that and just select delete. Do you want to really delete the selected object? Yes. Do the same thing for Profibus. Delete. Yes. And now your view should look something like this. We have our 1516, we have our 315-2, and we have our remote IO racks, and they're not assigned to anybody. So this one right here, this IM 151-3PN, we want to assign that to this guy. There's a couple different ways to do it, but for this example, we're just going to click on this link right here that says not assigned. And it's saying, hey, select an IO controller. And we're going to select PLC_1 Profinet interface 1. And then we're going to do the same thing for this IM 151-1 basic. Click on that link that says not assigned. Select the master. Do not select the 315-2. Select PLC_1 DP interface 1. Your screen should look like this. And then we're going to right click on the CPU. Oh, that's the 315. You want to right click on the 1516-3 and do a compile hardware and software. And that is it. So basically what that showed was if you wanted to just migrate the 300 to the 1500 and keep your existing remote IO as ET200S, you can totally do that. You don't have to migrate the ET200S to SP to be compatible with the 1500. So I'm going to minimize this. Before I move on, is everybody here? Did everybody complete lab number 2? It was a short, quick lab, pretty easy. Are we okay to move on? Any questions? All right, I'm going to take the silence as everybody's good, and we're going to move on to lab number 3. And again, I'm going to go through it, and then we're going to do it together. All right, so. So we are going to use the TIA selection tool. The TIA selection tool is a free utility from Siemens, and it is used for building bombs, bill of materials. The nice thing about it is you can take like a hardware configuration out of TI portal, and you can export it into the selection tool. And then within the selection tool, that'll migrate that like S7-300 to a 1500, but it will make the choices for you for the correct IO modules. So we're going to show you how to do that. So we're going to export ET200S hardware from TI Portal. We're going to import that into the selection tool. And then within the selection tool, we're going to migrate the ET200S to SP. We're going to print a bill of materials from the selection tool to a PDF. And then we're going to export the migrated ET200SP from the selection tool and import that into TI Portal. So again, we could close project 2. We don't need to save it. And then we are going to migrate lab 3. So after we close project 2, we're going to go up to the project menu, select migrate, and we're going to open up workshop example 3. And then once that's migrated into TI Portal, we're going to go to devices and network. And we are going to delete the Ethernet connection between the S7-300 and the ET200S node. Now that we have ungrouped the ET200S from the 300, we are going to go, there's a folder in the project tree called ungrouped devices. And we are going to right click on the 151-3PN. And in the contextual menu, we're going to select export CAX data. In the CAX export window, we are going to save the workshop AML file to our desktop. And then we're going to open up the TIA selection tool. We're going to switch to the project view. It's kind of like TI Portal, but bottom left corner, there's a little button that says project view. And we're going to go to the project menu. We're going to select import, and we're going to select TI Portal or ECAD systems. We're going to navigate to our desktop, and we're going to select that workshop.aml file. And we're going to click on results, and then we're going to see the results. It shows us what is in that AML file. Basically, it's the ET200S rack that we exported from TI Portal. And we're going to click on Setup Device. And click on Close. Now, once that is in the selection tool, you're going to see a folder under project navigation called Ungrouped Devices. You're going to select or right click on IM151-3PN, and we're going to select Migrate. And we're going to get the migration wizard. First, we want to click on ET200S on the left side, or I'm sorry, in the center, we're going to click on 151-3PN, check the box, and then we're going to click the ET200S button. We're going to use the defaults for this. We're going to click on the results button, and then we're going to click apply. And it's going to say migration was successful. So now we should have another folder that says migrated devices. We're going to click on configure. We're going to click on the interface module. The migration tool has selected a bundle, which might give us some problems in TI Portal. So we're going to select ET200SP in the catalog, and we're going to select ET200SP IM155-6PN standard, and it's going to we're going to get away from that bundle. And then after we select that guy, we have to select the bus adapter. We click OK. And now we have the correct configuration that will be recognized within TI Portal. So then we're going to go up to the order list. And then we're going to click on device selection. We're going to deselect the workshop. And we're going to select the migrated devices. And we're going to select apply. And then down below, we're going to click on export. And then we're going to select some options. And then we're going to click create. We're going to save the PDF to our C drive. And then the PDF should open up. Back in the selection tool, we're going to delete the ET200S. And then we're going to export that ET200SP into TI Portal. So we have to export that out of the selection tool. It's going to give us some options. We just need to make sure we have V18 selected. We're going to click export. And then we're going to save it to the desktop. It's going to have the same file name. So we're just going to say OK. And then we're going to go over to TI Portal. It should already be open. We're going to go to the Tools menu, Import CIX Data. We're going to select that workshop.aml file. And now in the devices and network view, we can see that we have both the ET200S that was originally there and also the ET200SP that we migrated from the selection tool. So now we're going to migrate the 315-2 to a 1500. And then we're going to connect the new ET200SP remote I/O rack to it. Pretty simple. Let me get my SkyTap open and I will go through this with you. Let's see all that. All right, so we should have workshop 2 open right now. We don't need to save it, so just go to the project menu, select close. Do you want to save it? No. And go back up to the project menu, select migrate project, and under source path, click the browse button with the 3 dots. And we want to go to local disk C and scroll down to workshop example 3 or exercise 3. Double click that and workshop.S7P open. Again, make sure you check the box for include hardware configuration. Keep these all as default and click on migrate. So the migration should have completed successfully. Click OK. In TI Portal now, you have the 315-2 PNDP. I want you to double click on devices and networks. And we'll see our 315-2 PN network to our ET200S remote I/O rack. This one's just Ethernet.
Can you pause for a minute? It's still creating target project.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Let me know when you're caught up. How we looking?
Okay, I'm caught up, but how do you get those 2 devices into the window there?
Oh,
just
double
have-
click on devices and network in your project tree.
Okay.
All right, so are you seeing the same thing I'm showing on my screen right now?
Okay, now I see it. Yeah.
Perfect, great. So we want to disconnect this remote IO rack from the 315-2. So we can just right click on Ethernet right here and select delete. And we really want to delete that, click on yes. So now that we have these ungrouped devices, we're going to export this hardware configuration. If you just want to double click on it, it's this guy right here. We're going to export that to the selection tool. So in your project tree, you should have a folder that says ungrouped devices. Expand that open, and then you'll find this IM151-3PN in there. We want to right click on that and select export CAX data. And it should default to the desktop, but if not, make sure we're saving to the desktop, and the file name workshop.aml, just leave it like that and click on save. So you should see like a little progress screen or window like I'm showing here, that it's exporting the data to the file. And in TI Portal, it should say that the exporting of the CAX data is completed. So now we have to open up the TIA selection tool. In your taskbar, you should see an icon that looks like this. It's TIA ST, or you could minimize TI Portal, go to your desktop, and on the desktop, you have the TIA selection tool. Let's just double click that. If you're getting this window that says, do you want to update? Click on cancel. Let's not do that. So click cancel. And this is the main window to the TIA selection tool. It's kind of like TI Portal where you have two views. One's a very basic view to do very basic things. And then you have like a more advanced view, which is the project view. So lower left corner, we're going to click on project view. And I want to point out too, the selection tool likes single clicks. It doesn't like double clicks. So when you select any of these objects in project navigation, just make sure you click on it once. If you click on it twice, sometimes it inadvertently opens up something that you didn't intend to open up. So just single click on objects. So it already has a project going. It's a blank project. What we want to do now is import that configuration from TI Portal. So we're going to go to the project menu and we're going to select import. And then the first item in the contextual menu is TI Portal or ECAD systems. So now we want to navigate to our desktop. And we want to select workshop.aml, click open. So now we have the import window open. It's asking about accessories. Don't change anything with accessories. We want to click on the result button. And this actually gives us what it's importing. So It's saying there's a DIN rail. It's not in TI Portal, but in the selection tool, it always adds a DIN rail because the remote IO rack mounts to a DIN rail. We have our 2DI IO module. We have our power module. We have the interface module. And we have a couple terminal modules. So we're going to click Setup Device. And then on this window, we click on Close. So we have successfully imported the ET200S to the selection tool. You can actually find it here. It's in the ungrouped devices folder. IM151-3PN, click on it. And if you go up here to configure, you're going to get this window saying ET200S is no longer supported. Yeah, we know. Click OK to that. And this looks very similar or the exact same as it did in TI Portal. So in TI Portal, we have this. And in the selection tool, we have this. So now I want you to right click on IM151-3PN in the project navigation pane and select Migrate. So here on the main window, it's asking us what devices we want to migrate. We have to select IM151-3PN, check that box. We're going to get some options here. Click on Simatic ET200S. These are some options you can select, but for this exercise, we are keeping everything as is. And we're going to click Results. Wrong results. This results. And we're going to click on Apply. And then click on Close. And I'm going to check that box to do not show me again because I know it's not supported anymore. So now we're going to have a new folder in the project navigation pane. It just added migrated to the ungrouped devices folder. So we have this migrated ungrouped devices folder. And in there we have our, it gave it the same name. It just appends migrated onto it. But we could see here in the square brackets that its device type is ET200SP. We could click on that. And it should already take us to configure. And so this is how it migrated it to an ET200SP. And you might be wondering, like, hey, it looks like there's one less module here. And let me explain what's going on. So back in TI Portal, if we look, there is two modules here. With the ET200S, when you bring in 24 volts, you actually have to bring that into an electronics module. So this is a power module. And then once you have this power module here, the modules to its right get its 24 volts. So it's two modules, this power module, and then we have our IO module. Well, with ET200SP, they got rid of those power modules. The electronics are now built into the light colored base units. So we have the power module, which is the light colored base unit, and we have the migrated two digital input module. Actually, it put in an 8-channel digital input module, but if you wanted to change that, you could. So now, the way it's selected this interface module, you could order this a few different ways. To make it convenient, for you, there's an option, there's a part number that has the interface module, and it also has in oh, what do they call it? It's the BA module. So it's how you connect your Profinet cables. But we want to change that so it's actually two separate part numbers. So we want to make sure that we have slot 0 selected. You'll see a blue rectangle around it. And we want to select this part that's right above it, the ET200SP IM155-6 ST. And now if we right click on that, did it change it? Oh, it did. I think we actually have to drag it over. Sorry. You could double click it or you could drag it over. There you go. Double clicking worked. So now it's saying what bus adapter do you want to use? We want to use the 2 RJ45 bus adapter. Click OK. So it's going to look the same because it's the exact same parts, but the only difference here is if you go into the device details, now there's a little black caret next to the interface module, and we could see the separate part number for the bus adapter. We're just doing this for the configuration within TI Portal. If you import it in as a single part number, TI Portal doesn't like that. You're going to throw an error. So we just have to make sure we differentiate the two part numbers. So now we're going to go up to our order list here in Project Navigation. And we're going to see all of our components. We want to go to device selection. And we want to make sure uncheck workshop. And we just want this one right here, IM151-3 PN migrated. Click apply. And now we're going to click on export. Export as PDF. It gives us some options. Just keep these all as is and click on create. And I would just save this to the desktop. You could keep the name workshop or you could give it something else. So I'm just going to say workshop bomb and click on save. So it creates this PDF for you. And you could use this PDF. You could send it into inside sales at E&M, and it has all the part numbers and the quantities you need. You could send it as a PDF. You could send it as an Excel spreadsheet. Either way, up to you what you want to do. It's just like a nice little feature to export your bill of materials. And I just wanted to show that to you guys. So you can minimize the PDF. And right now we don't need this ET200S in here anymore. So we're going to right click on ungroup devices. And we're going to click on delete. And then we're going to go under migrated ungrouped devices, the IM151-3 PN migrated. That's just the name of it. We're going to right click on that. And we're going to select export to TI Portal or ECAD systems. We get some choices here. We just want to make sure that TI Portal is selected and V18 is selected. And click on export. And go to your desktop. And you could give, yeah, we want desktop. We want to select folder. And then existing files are overwritten during export. Continue. OK. And now we should go back to TI Portal. and we want to go up to the tools menu and select import CAX data. Hopefully it already has your desktop selected, and we want to click on the workshop.aml file, click on open. And if we go to devices and network, we could see here we have our new IM 151-3PN migrated. So that's the name of it, but the actual device is the IM 155-6PN. So we probably want to change that name to something else, just so it's not confusing. But for this exercise, we're just going to keep it like that. So now we want to migrate our S7-300 to a 1500. I'm just going to right click on the CPU, the 315-2PN, and I'm going to do a compile hardware and software. No errors, no warnings. I'm going to right click on that guy again, migrate to S7-1500. So for the 1500 that you're going to select here, you could select either the 1511 or the 1516 -3PN DP. Either one is fine. This exercise, the remote IO is only Profinet, so it really doesn't matter which one we select. I'm just going to select the 1516 -3PN DP. Select that guy, click OK. Test, test, test. Click OK to that. Click OK to use the new type of point-to-point communications. And you should see this message saying the migration completed successfully. So hopefully you are all here, and we're just going to do the same steps we did before. In the device view, we want to click on the properties tab. Make sure protection and security is selected and click on start security wizard, I'm sorry. We're going to go through this wizard like we have many times before. I'm just turning everything off. Click on finish. So now I want to right click on CPU 1516-3PN DP. I'm going to do a compile, hardware and software. No errors. Devices and network. And I'm going to go to our new ET200SP station. It is not assigned. I'm going to click on not assigned. And I'm going to select PLC_1, Profinet interface 1. And now our migrated ET200SP remote IO rack is connected to our migrated S7-1516-3PN. Good to go. If you wanted to, you could delete out the 315 and the old ET200S rack here. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to leave them in. And that actually concludes our migration workshop. So hopefully you are all caught up. Does anybody need any help at this point getting caught up to finish up lab 3? No, but I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So hopefully everybody's caught up. Any questions now that we're done with the 3 labs? No questions? I'm kind of surprised. Any comments, questions? Quiet group.
We'll hang around in case anyone has any last minute questions. But great job with that presentation, Joe.
Thank you. And I just want to note, these migrations that we showed today were very basic migrations. We did that just to, show you the essential steps on how to do these migrations. When you do your migrations, you might have some added steps. If you have a step 7 project that has an HMI in it, there's going to be some added steps to migrate that HMI into TI Portal. And then you might need to migrate that old HMI to a newer version of an HMI. Another thing that I come across quite often is when I do these migrations, as soon as I migrate the S7-300 to TI Portal, I get errors. And typically those errors are, there are devices in the Step 7 project that are not compatible with TI Portal. And the reason being is you might have a very, very, very old Step 7 project that has very old hardware that has been discontinued a long time ago, or Siemens has since revised that hardware and has replaced it with newer hardware revisions with newer part numbers. And so TI Portal doesn't recognize that old hardware. So what you need to do is actually go into your Step 7 project and update those part numbers in your hardware configuration to newer part numbers. And then update them to newer part numbers, compile, make sure it's good in the old project, and then migrate it to TI Portal. That I come across that quite a bit. So just don't be nervous if you see that error message. Just understand that you just have some really outdated hardware that you're working with, and in order to convert it to TI Portal, we just have to make sure that it's the latest hardware in the Step 7 project. With that being said, E&M, we have great technical support. They can help you with your migrations. Typically they're not going to help you commission migrated projects, but if you need help migrating a project, what we typically help with is any errors that you come across during your migration process. We could help you walk through those. So don't feel, always reach out to us. We're here to help. If you're one of our customers as well, even though I am a Siemens product specialist for Northern California, I'm happy to help out with any migration issues you might have. Dan Stewart is here. He's up in the Pacific Northwest. We have John Hill, and then we also have Hardik Thakar in our Southern California office. All of our Siemens product specialists, we're here to help with any migration issues you might have or any suggestions that you need during your migration process. So I will hang out for a little bit. The VMs are still open for you guys to play around with. Kyle, if I'm not mistaken, they're available for the rest of the day.
Yeah, we'll leave them around for the rest of the day. They do go into sleep mode if they're unattended to for a couple hours or after a couple hours. So if that's the case, you can just send me an email. I can turn it back on for you.
Perfect. Yeah, so if you guys, you could re-go through the labs and do this again, or mess around with them, add some hardware into the original Step 7 projects and migrate them over. Just think of it as a little sandbox that you guys can play around with today.